Have you ever wondered if the darkest corners of the internet can reach into your life? What if you stumbled upon something that knew your deepest fears before you even did? The screen flickers, and I can still see it in my mind. That room. It wasn't just some random feed. It was waiting for me, waiting for us. A metal table bathed in red light, a figure standing over it. At first, I thought it was just a sick joke. But then, I saw the face. It wasn't just anyone. I knew that face. I tried to turn it off, but the screen wouldn't budge. The figure, it was moving closer to me now. And the whisper. It wasn't from the feed. It was behind me. You're next. Stick with me till the end to find out. What happens when the red room stops being just a screen and starts coming for you? But before we start, don't forget to hit subscribe or follow so you'll never miss our next terrifying episode. If you're enjoying our content, please give us a like, drop a comment, and share this video to help us reach 500 likes. Also, follow us on our social media platforms for the latest updates. Thank you all for being part of this journey with me. And now, let's dive into the darkness. Together. I had heard all the stories about the dark web. People who get curious, end up falling into its depths, and never come out. I always thought they were just exaggerated warnings, designed to scare people away. I mean, how bad could it be? I'd heard about illegal markets, stolen data, and hacking rings, but I figured it was all just a part of the internet's darker corners. I didn't take it seriously, until the night I made the mistake of looking too deep. It started with a simple search. I was scrolling through Reddit when I stumbled upon a thread titled, "The Dark Web, My First Experience." The poster described all sorts of strange, unsettling things they had encountered on the dark web. Places where people could watch real crimes happening, forums that sold untraceable drugs, disturbing images from parts of the world most people would never see. But one comment caught my attention. It read, "Check out this link. It's a live feed from the afterlife. It's worth it." I laughed it off at first. A live feed from the afterlife? Ridiculous. But then the curiosity kicked in. Something about the way the comment was phrased made me click the link. I knew it was probably a scam, maybe some strange form of trolling or an elaborate hoax, but I couldn't stop myself. The screen flickered, then turned black. For a few moments, nothing happened. I thought about closing the tab, but before I could, the image shifted, and I saw a dark, cluttered room. The lighting was dim, red-tinted, as if someone had taken the footage with an old camera. On a metal table in the center of the room lay a man, his skin pale and covered in deep, fresh cuts. The camera zoomed in, showing the man's face. It was my father. My stomach dropped. I rubbed my eyes, trying to convince myself it was some sick prank or deep fake, but the pain in my chest told me something was horribly wrong. The man was unmistakably my father, though the cuts and bruises on his body were unrecognizable. He was motionless, bound to the table. The camera zoomed out, and I noticed the figure standing over him. A man, or something like a man, dressed in a dark cloak, with a smooth, featureless face. There were no eyes, no nose, nothing but an unsettling, bone-white mask where a face should have been. The figure moved around the table slowly, methodically, as if it was preparing something. I couldn't breathe. The room felt colder. I didn't know if this was real or some twisted version of a horror film, but all my instincts told me to close the window, to turn away. But I couldn't. Suddenly, the screen blinked out, replaced by a new scene. I wasn't looking at the camera anymore. I was lying on a cold metal table in a dimly lit room, just like the one in the video. Panic rose in my chest as I realized I was now the one strapped down. My mind raced, trying to make sense of what was happening. Was this some kind of hack? A terrifying prank? A dream? But it felt too real. The cold metal beneath me, the sickening smell of stale air, the eerie red lighting that seemed to fill every corner of the room. And then, that figure appeared again. It stood over me, its body long and unnaturally thin. Its face, pale and smooth, was even more terrifying up close. It leaned in, so close I could feel its cold, lifeless breath on my skin. The sensation sent waves of panic through my body, but I couldn't move, couldn't scream. The figure reached toward me with long, bony fingers and whispered something in a voice that chilled me to the core. "It's not over." The next thing I knew, the screen was black. I wasn't in the room anymore, but in my own bed, drenched in sweat, heart pounding. I gasped for air, like I had just been suffocated. My mind was racing, trying to piece together what had just happened. I looked around. Everything seemed normal, but there was a lingering sense of dread. My thoughts were scattered, my body trembling. Was it real? Had I just hallucinated the whole thing? I tried to shake it off, but something wasn't right. I looked at my phone. There was a message from an unknown number. It was a simple text. "It's not over." My blood ran cold. I checked my phone's history to see if the number was familiar, but it wasn't. I felt a chill run down my spine. My father had been in that video, and now I was being contacted by someone, or something, connected to it. It had been too real to ignore, I opened my email in a daze. There, in my inbox, was a single image. It was a picture of my father, taken in the same position he had been in on the table. His face was pale, his eyes wide open in fear. The cuts were the same wounds. But what really made me freeze was the background. In the corner of the image, I saw the figure again, the same featureless face, looming in the shadows. It was then that I realized something horrifying. This wasn't just a video or a prank. Someone was watching. Someone had found a way into my life, into my reality. I don't know how they did it, or who they are. All I know is that they are watching me now. And every time I close my eyes, I see that figure, standing just behind me, waiting. I had always been curious about the dark web, but it wasn't until Adrian mentioned it that I started exploring. He was a tech-savvy guy, a hacker in his own right. I was skeptical at first, but his fascination with the hidden corners of the internet was contagious. One night, after a few beers and too many hours of aimless browsing, Adrian found something that piqued his interest. "Check this out," he said, pointing at his screen. He had come across a link to a live broadcast, advertised as an extreme, uncensored feed. At first, I figured it was just another prank or a gimmick to get views. But there was something in Adrian's eyes that told me this was different. Something dangerous. I hesitated, but curiosity got the best of me. I leaned over his shoulder and watched as he clicked on the link. The screen flickered, and at first, all we saw was static. Then, it cleared. The video feed showed an empty, dimly lit room. The walls were covered in dark, blood-red stains, and the floor looked sticky, as if it had seen things far worse than just the usual grime. A camera, positioned in the corner of the room, captured everything. But there was no one there. I frowned. "What the hell is this?" "Give it a second," Adrian said. He leaned closer to the screen, his eyes scanning the edges of the frame as if expecting something or someone to appear. And then it did. A figure slowly entered the room from the far side, barely visible at first. It was a tall, cloaked silhouette, moving unnaturally slow, as though it was dragging something behind it. The figure didn't speak. It didn't even seem to acknowledge the camera. It just walked to the center of the room and stopped. My heart started racing. Then, the camera zoomed in, and I realized what the figure had been dragging. A woman. She was bound and gagged, her face bruised and bloody. She was unconscious, limp in the figure's grip. Her clothes were torn, and I could see the remnants of something vile on her skin. Adrian cursed under his breath, his hand instinctively reaching for the mouse. "We need to shut this off," but I stopped him. I didn't know why, but something compelled me to keep watching. The figure dropped the woman onto the cold, stained floor, and the camera zoomed in once more. For the briefest moment, I thought I saw the woman's eyes flutter open. and then I heard a voice. Soft, but unmistakable. Adrian. My blood turned cold. The woman on the floor. She looked exactly like someone I knew. I couldn't place it at first, but there was something about her. And then it hit me. It was his sister, Jessica. I jerked my head to look at Adrian, who had gone pale. "What the hell?" I shouted, but he was frozen, his eyes glued to the screen. The woman's face was covered in bruises, but there was no mistaking the features. Jessica, his younger sister. "Why the hell is she on that feed?" Adrian whispered, his voice trembling. I could barely process it. The figure, still silent, began to move toward her. It knelt down, its hand reaching out to touch her face. The movement was slow, deliberate, as if savoring the moment. My stomach twisted in knots. Adrian scrambled to his keyboard, his hands shaking as he tried to close the tab. But something was wrong. The browser froze. The mouse wouldn't move. Nothing was working. "Shit," he muttered, panic creeping into his voice. The feed continued. But now, the woman, Jessica, was looking directly at the camera. Her mouth was gagged, but I could see the terror in her eyes. The cloaked figure stood up again, its movements eerily smooth and fluid, as if it had no human qualities at all. Suddenly, the feed flickered. I swear I saw the figure turn its head, looking directly at Adrian through the screen. "Adrian, it's watching us," I whispered, fear crawling up my spine. He didn't answer. His fingers were still tapping at the keyboard, trying to find a way out. Then, the figure did something that I'll never forget. It turned its attention back to Jessica, raising a sharp, gleaming object in the air. The camera zoomed in, showing her terrified eyes just as the figure brought the object down. The screen went black. The sudden silence was deafening. For a moment I thought I had imagined it. Maybe the feed was cut, or perhaps something had gone wrong with our connection. But Adrian was still staring at the screen, his face ashen, eyes wide with shock and disbelief. "We have to get out of here," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Adrian, where's Jessica?" I demanded, but he didn't respond. He was already standing up, pacing, running his hands through his hair as if trying to shake the horror from his mind. I grabbed his shoulder. "Adrian, what the hell just happened?" His voice cracked when he spoke. "It was a warning." My blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" He looked at me, his eyes hollow. "That thing, it knew me. It knew who I was." It was then that I understood the horror of it all. The thing in the feed wasn't just toying with us. It was toying with Adrian. The figure, the woman on the floor. This wasn't some random dark web stream. This was personal. As the minutes passed, the fear turned into something more tangible, something darker. We couldn't stop thinking about the eyes we saw through the screen, how the figure had made eye contact with Adrian, as if inviting him into something far more sinister. A part of me thought it was over, just a sick game someone was playing. But another part of me knew better. The figure hadn't just watched us, it had marked us. I don't know if I'll ever be able to forget that moment, the horror that came from the dark web, and the chilling feeling that something, someone, was watching us. It was just another night of aimless browsing, scrolling through whatever I could find to kill time. That's when I got the message. No name, just an anonymous link that said, "Watch this, it's live." Normally, I'd ignore something like that, but I clicked anyway. The screen flickered, and suddenly I was staring at what looked like a courtroom. The kind of courtroom you've seen in movies. Wooden panels, harsh fluorescent lights, and the low murmur of people in the background. It looked pretty normal, except for the man sitting at the defendant's table. I froze. The man on trial was known as the Demon of Rosemont. He was accused of killing 3 teenage girls in a small town not far from mine. Everyone was talking about it, but I never thought I'd end up watching the trial like this, live, in real time, through some anonymous link. But the second the camera zoomed in on him, I felt something cold crawl down my spine. His eyes were empty. They weren't the eyes of a man, more like deep, dark pits that felt like they were staring right into you. It wasn't just his eyes, though. It was his face. He looked calm. Too calm. His expression was flat, almost like he didn't care. But what really freaked me out was the way he looked directly at the camera, like he knew I was watching. I don't know why I didn't just close the link right there. Maybe it was a mix of fear and morbid curiosity. But something about the way he stared made it impossible for me to look away. And then it happened. The man, without breaking his gaze from the camera, leaned forward just slightly, and in a voice that made my skin prickle, he said, "You're next." I don't know how to explain it, but the air felt different after that. My whole body went cold. I felt like I wasn't just watching him anymore. I was in the room, right there with him, as if he could somehow reach out and drag me into that hellish space. I wanted to turn off my phone, throw it across the room, forget it all happened. But I couldn't. I stayed there, staring at the screen, my heart pounding in my chest. The feed cut off after that. The screen went black. I told myself it was nothing, that it was some sick prank, or a glitch in the live stream. But the unease wouldn't go away. The next day, I started to notice little things. A strange feeling of being watched, like there was someone behind me at all times. My nerves were on edge. The sound of footsteps in the hallway outside my apartment would send my pulse racing. But when I looked, there was no one there. Then it started getting worse. I was sitting at home, scrolling through social media, when I heard a knock at the door. It was late, too late for anyone to be visiting. I opened the door, and there was nothing there. Just a piece of paper on the ground. I bent down, picked it up, and my hands went ice cold. It read, "I told you. You're next." That was when I really started to panic. I couldn't shake it. I couldn't shake the feeling that he was out there, somewhere, watching. The demon of Rosemont, or whatever he was. His words kept playing over and over in my head. "You're next." The next few days were a blur. I couldn't focus on anything. Sleep? I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face. Those dark, lifeless eyes. Then came the calls. At first I thought it was just some telemarketer or a wrong number, but they kept calling, over and over again. Each time I picked up, there was nothing, just static. But I knew it was him, the demon. He was out there, and he was coming for me. I had to know. I had to see if he was still on that live feed. I went back to the link, though part of me screamed not to. When the screen loaded, there he was again, sitting at that same defendant's table. But this time, as the camera zoomed in, his eyes didn't just lock onto the screen, they locked onto me. Through the screen. I could feel him there, in my apartment, watching me. And then, in that same cold, emotionless voice, he whispered, "Soon." I couldn't breathe. And now, I'm left with nothing but this feeling, that something is coming for me. I don't know when, but I know it's only a matter of time. And the worst part? I'm starting to think it's not just a threat, it's a promise. If you've made it to the end of this video, let me know in the comments which story creeped you out the most. And if you could survive only one of these stories, which one would it be? Also, drop "I love AG horrors" and mention our channel in the comments below. I want to know who my loyal followers are so I can give you a shout out in our next videos. And lastly, if you've experienced a terrifying encounter or have a horror story to share, send it to us on Reddit. And if you want to support the channel and help us create even more spine-chilling content, check out our Patreon or Ko-Fi. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to like and share the video. And now stay tuned for our next horror episode.